Hey everybody, I hope you're having a great day today. Thought it'd be fun to change up the scenery a little bit and be outside because it's not crazy hot right now in Phoenix, but it's still like over 100 degrees. But anyway, I thought it'd be fun to actually talk to you about my belly dance journey. And of course, in the comments below, I would also love to hear your belly dance journey as well. I think we all get into this art form in many different ways, and it's just really cool actually to just hear about everyone's experience. So I went to University of Arizona in Tucson, Arizona. And my first 2 years of college, I actually was not in the dorms. I was in an apartment and I didn't know my roommates. We were paired together, and one of them happened to be from Palestine and the other one from Jordan. And I love them. They are such beautiful women. They were fantastic. They were so kind and everything. And that was actually my first introduction into Middle East anything. Even though my dad was in the army and we moved from different countries, different states, and all that stuff, I never was exposed to that Middle Eastern culture, Middle Eastern people. And so I, one, found their food fascinating, the culture fascinating. When they spoke Arabic, I found it fascinating. And of course, when they would listen to music and they would start belly dancing, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. What is this? So I was first introduced to Middle Eastern dancing through them, and they moved so lovely and they just kept it so casual. It was just so cool to see. And they would show me a hip drop, and my friend Layla, the one from Jordan, she did the finger snap thing, and I was like, oh my God, how do you snap that loud? And still to this day I'm still working on it, but goals. So anyway, that was back in the early 2000s. I met them in 2001, and that's when I was first introduced to it. But until I actually moved up to Phoenix when I graduated college, which was in 2006, that's when I started taking belly dance classes at Bookman's, which is a bookstore here. And I started learning locally because there was a free class. And so I was like, sign me up, free classes. I'm broke. I'm just out of college trying to find a job, all of that stuff. It was amazing. So I went, one of my coworkers went with me. She's the one who actually told me about it, my friend Lisa. And so she went, and that's how I met my first mentor. Diane Tisa is her name. And she taught me so much about emotional connection and having fun with the dance and just being in the moment and really experiencing it. And I was in her troupe for a couple of years, and it was amazing. I really, really enjoyed it. I just love what she had to offer. And it was interesting because I really thought I wasn't good at belly dancing, and she saw something in me that I didn't see. And so she ended up telling me, Samantha, you have so much potential. You are really, really good. And she had me occasionally start to substitute teach her classes or be an example at the front of the class, which showed a lot of trust in me, and I really appreciated it. I've never forgotten that to this day. And she's a beautiful soul. And unfortunately, she's not teaching anymore. I wish she was. That would be amazing. But so I started with her, and I just started to love the dance more and more. And she was teaching me about freedom of expression and how to connect with your audience. And so a lot of my experience with that was from her in the very beginning. It wasn't necessarily about technique, it was about connecting and performing and being in touch with your authentic self. And I so appreciate that I came from that realm first before going into technique, because it allowed for that technique to come more easily, because it I had more practice not judging myself as harshly. Still judge myself, right? We all do, we're human, but not judge myself as harshly about my experience. So I had asked her at one point, several years into me studying under her and dancing with her, who can I go for technique? Because that wasn't her forte necessarily. She wasn't bad at technique or anything, but I really wanted to like hyper study my technique. And she had mentioned Ava Fleming. So Ava Fleming, as you know, is an international artist, and she was based here in Phoenix for years. And so I went to Ava, and I didn't know anything about anybody. So like that sounds really weird, but I didn't study belly dance. YouTube wasn't a thing back then. You had to either go to festivals, do workshops that you heard through the grapevine, buy DVDs, stuff like that. So there wasn't a way to find out about all these people unless you kind of knew their name and knew what to search. So when I got to Ava Fleming's studio, I was like, oh, I'm here, based on a referral. My teacher told me to come to you for technique. I had no idea how well known she was and how like people were like, "Oh my god, Ava." And I was just like, "I don't know. Like I don't know anything about belly dancing except what I learned from, Diane." And so it was really, really a gift to be able to study under Tisa as well as Ava Fleming because they are strong in two completely different areas. And so I feel like a lot of my journey was so beautifully sculpted by the two of them. And both of them were my mentors. And I am forever grateful for the information that they've shared with me so generously and openly. I really, really appreciate them for that. And so after I had studied with Ava and danced in her troupe for a while, I became co-director with another one of our troupe mates for a bit, and eventually I left troupe and became a solo artist, and that was back in 2012. So I've been on my own for 8 years on my own, so to speak. But of course, there's always continuing education that we take and we learn, and there's so much to learn, which is one of the things I love about dance in Rock Sharqi. So I think back on that time and how formative those years were for me, especially because I've always loved dance and I never saw myself as a like a dancer, especially in a professional format. I took like 1 year of ballet when I was younger, like super young, because I had pigeon-toed feet. So my mom put me in so it could help straighten out my feet, right? And then I took like a semester, or back then it was like, a course in modern dance. And then I did baton twirling. And when I was in college, though, I did do salsa dancing and rueda de casino. So that was awesome. So I had those types of dance in my body and that kind of training. And when I moved to Phoenix, I took ballroom more seriously for about 8 to 9 months before I had actually like really diligently put myself into belly dancing. Um, and so I had that kind of training, but I never saw myself as a professional dancer. I saw myself as a dancer for fun and very socially. I also had a lot of club dancing because, those teen nights when you're young, I went to all of those. I went to all the school dances and all that stuff, and it was just so much fun. I came from a very small town, Sierra Vista, because my dad, as I said, he was in the military and he retired in Fort Huachuca, and so which is in Arizona. All of this is in Arizona, and so it was a super small town. So it was just not big. You didn't think in big terms or anything like that. So even to be here today, I'm not any kind of megastar or anything like that, but to have the community that I do and the very humbling respect that has been given to me, I am extremely grateful for that. You know what I mean? Because even when I had Tisa and Ava as mentors, I never thought that I would be here, even though I was like, I want to be a world renowned belly dancer. You know how some of us have that dream. Some of us still have that dream, and some of us are living that dream. And so I was like, oh, I always wanted to be this huge, well known belly dancer, not because I was like, I wanted to be hot shit, but because I wanted to dance all over and I wanted to share that with people. And yeah, I wanted to make money, of course. And just teach and live that lifestyle. And it was such an amazing experience to be able to teach and dance and actually live a little bit of that dream that I had dreamt years ago. And so, those years with Ava and Tisa, like I said, were extremely formative. And when I became a soloist, I took everything that they learned, or everything that I learned from them, and I did my best to try and apply it to me and my style and my technique and how I teach others and what I find is important to relay on from them. And of course, their teachers relaying to them. And so it's definitely this generational education that's happening, which couldn't have happened without their teachers as well. So I'm definitely appreciative of this journey that I've had. And now I'm in my 14th. I'm almost going to complete in January. It'll be 15 years that I've been doing Rock Sharqi. I should say belly dancing, Rock Sharqi plus others in that realm, because I did do fusion for a little bit. But the more I think about where I came from, the more it makes me appreciate where I'm headed and where I am right now. And it also makes me appreciate my students more because it's really easy to see where you are now and forget how far you've come or the people that helped you get there or that you didn't start off being hot shit in the beginning, right? We had to work our way up. Natural talent only goes so far, and then you got to bust your ass and do the right work for it. And so it's made me a better teacher in the way of like being with my students of like I remember that time. I remember when I trained hard, like really hard, to just get an effing shimmy. You know what I mean? Like a chest lift and drop to arabesque without toppling over in the middle of it because my balance was off. Like all of these things, remembering those and getting present to where I came from in my journey helps me be a better teacher because it helps me go back to relating to my students and helping them know that they're not alone and knowing that I'm not alone. You know what I mean? Like watching them is the same as watching me and knowing that like we all go through these struggles together in order to, get what we want, which is to feel good in our bodies, to be able to have that kind of control over our functionality and the way we express ourselves through music. I think it's amazing. So, this is just a brief insight into my belly dance journey. And of course, if you and I were sitting, having coffee and carbs, because I love both, uh, then we could go into a deeper conversation about it. But I would love to hear about your journey and how you ended up in belly dance world and Middle Eastern dancing, rock Sharqi, because all of our journeys are important and play a part in how we influence our next generation, as well as appreciate the generations before us. And I think it's important to dialogue that conversation. So I'm looking forward to hearing from you all. And don't be a stranger. Hit me up in the comments.